If you don't know anything about rugby, don't talk.
Regan. Drop goal from Larkham.
Australian 3-4, they've got the advantage.
Worst press conference. Well done, boys.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the G&GR Teams podcast for the week. I'm the Happyman. Reds and Wallabies fella is coming off the bench for us tonight, and joining KARL with me. Sully's got work and can't make it. Good evening, KARL. How are you going?
Yeah, good man. Good to be back. Welcome, Rolf. Great to see you here, and be interesting to hear what you have to say, mate.
Yeah, thanks, KARL. Thanks, Happyman. Great to be back. It's second time on the podcast. Really pleased to be part of it, and I know it was a duke out between myself and Yowie as to who was going to get a run, but thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Okay, quick run through of what we've got ahead. We've got the our normal segment of what makes us happy and what we enjoyed about our rugby over the weekend. We'll go through our fearless predictions and detail all the games, and finish, of course, with old men shouting at clouds. But first, obviously, welcome to the show. Download, rate, subscribe, review, do all those good things. We're on YouTube now. Jump on the YouTube channel. That really helps drive the traffic, all those sorts of things. Tell your friends and share it widely. We certainly enjoy the support. Rolf, what made you happy?
Oh, look, obviously the Reds scratching out a win against the Tars, that was good. That was great. That was good that they won. Gee, they switched off after that disallowed try. And KARL, I'll throw to you for the referee's view, but disallow the try because the guy's just running and he's faster. There's a contact. It looks incidental. By the way, they're both to the right of where the ball ended up, and somebody else picked the ball up. So did it affect the outcome? Should it have been a try to go up 24-0 at that stage with a kick, 26? I think the Reds really switched off after that and almost let themselves down, almost let the Waratahs win a game, but they didn't. So that was good. But no, the other thing that really was great was the sevens. I didn't get to see a lot of it live, but I watched a couple of the replays. I saw the highlights, the composure at the end of that game from the women's team, the women's sevens team, to take the ball into contact, score the try, the composure, the execution, super fantastic to kick that last drop goal conversion. And then I watched the men's, and then I watched the final, a replay of the final where it seemed to be that women's final. They just invited the French team into the game from the kickoff, and they just invited the French team to play and to take control of the game. But they couldn't. The French weren't good enough. The women's seven team were good enough to shut them down. They traded a try, and then they just killed them within the second half. So that was super to watch. And the Argentina-French, the men's sevens final, it's a bit passé. Seemed to be a lot of injuries affecting the outcome of that game. So, but the women's sevens and the Reds actually getting the win against the Waratahs, that was the highlights.
Awesome. KARL?
Actually, I must admit, mate, I was watching that Reds Waratahs, and I was just thinking of how many people here I would laugh at if the Waratahs actually did come up and they didn't. I'm not saying it was a disappointment because I am glad that the Reds won, but I tell you what, guys, if the Waratahs had come up, you would have heard a fair bit of banter coming from me. Hey, look, my big one, of course, was obviously those last two tries that the Chiefs scored, which meant the Blues were number 2 and the Canes were number 1. You know, watching the Blues switch off like that and allow the Chiefs to go in and score the tries that meant the Canes became number 1 in the competition and won the minor premiership was absolutely brilliant. But I am with you 100% on the sevens. I've been watching the sevens all the way through this year. Every time there's been a sevens tournament, I've been down, first thing in the morning watching all the games from the previous night, annoying the piss out of my wife by putting sevens on when she wants to watch her programs. I just really like sevens, and the New Zealand and the Australian women's teams are just brilliant. They've got fantastic skills. They've got a fantastic attitude. The culture that both teams have got and developed through, and the way they look after each other, both on and off the field, is just absolutely fantastic. The only thing that pisses me off about it is what the hell is RA doing, and why aren't they just promoting this so much better? These ladies would outshine the Matildas if they got off their fucking ass and showed them. because they are just fantastic human beings. And so Sevens absolutely, and obviously the Canes winning the minor premiership. That's it for me, mate.
Yeah. Look, I with you guys actually slightly different take on the Sevens for mine. I just looked at it and went, how good is Antoine Dupont? Like 10 days ago, he won the European Championship with Toulouse, and then 7, 8, 9 days later backs it up and just goes and wins the Sevens tournament just for fun. I mean, seriously, best player in the world at the moment. You can argue potentially other guys might be a better halfback, but there is not a better rugby player walking the planet today.
He's got to be the most influential in the games he plays in, right? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that has the most influence on the games he plays in?
Yeah.
So he's phenomenal.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say against him, and it's not against him,
it was like Kiwi.
No, absolutely not. No, it's probably something he suffers from every night and cries while he goes to sleep, but that's a separate issue. No, I'm thinking more of the fact that, like in the Rugby World Cup, the French suffered because he got injured. And one of the problems you have with a player like that is that it actually requires other players to step up. And if they don't step up, that player who has all that influence can actually be quite bad for the team if something happens. Now, I don't blame him at all, absolutely. And I tend to agree. I think he's one of the most exciting players in world rugby, best in the world. I won't go down that path because I think there's too many things from other players that influence your game to make you good. But at the same time, he's certainly up there, great player. But I think if I was the coach of a team where he was playing, he would be a huge challenge about how I would get the rest of the team to step up for when he wasn't there.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, again, let's move into the game, shall we? First game for the weekend, probably the most important for two people sitting here, is the Chiefs on Friday night, the early game, 5:05 in Australian time. The Chiefs v the Reds. For the Chiefs, Tupou Vaa'i will start in the second row. Samasoni Taukei'aho starts at hooker with Bradley Slater moving back to the bench. Anton Leonard-Brown starts at outside centre. For the Reds, they basically jigged around with their 23 from last week. Jeffrey Tuamunga starts at tight head. Nongor moves to the bench. Ryan Smith starts in the lock. John Bryant returns at number 8, and Tom Liner starts at fly half with Lawson Crichton moving to the bench. Reds, tell me why we'll be happy on Friday night.
I think this is the. I'm going to forecast all my tips up front. I think this is the only one that's really going to have a potential for an upset where the away team wins. I think the Chiefs lost their last couple. The Reds lost against Fiji, where everyone seems to, and won the last couple. They weren't super convincing against the Waratahs, but I think the Reds. I like what Lawson Crichton. I like how he's seemed to have improved his composure and his game management this year. I know that we've discussed that offline a fair bit, Lawson Crichton, but I think he's improved a lot and doesn't seem to struggle like he did last year to manage games or the year before. Tom Liner, obviously, with he brings an overaged sort of composure to the game, and I like actually both of them. They don't seem to want to. Neither of them pass the ball to someone who's in a worse position than they are, and I think they both, as the fly halves, tend to have that good vision for not shoveling it, and I think Liner in particular does that. He's super composed, and I think that's a good thing. We beat the Chiefs last time we played them. I think there's no reason why we can't go over to Hamilton and beat them. I think the Reds. It'll be close though. I think the Reds by 2 points. Let's go with 2. It'll be tight. We'll all be crapping ourselves as the game winds down, but I think it'll be a couple of points in it. That's my forecast.
Carl, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be the tightest game of the finals, and makes sense when they're both sort of one above the other on the ladder. So it's not like there's a big gap between them. I think the Chiefs have a couple of weaknesses in their defence. Both DMAC and Stevenson are really, really good attacking players, but both of them have suffered in careers not moving forward because of their defence. DMAC struggles with people running at him. And if he's got the ball and people are running at him, he actually struggles to make the right decision, which is why I see him better as a fullback than I do as a first five. So that could be an issue. Stevenson is a fantastic attacking player, but he's actually got a pretty poor defence, which is why he's never made the All Blacks, despite so many people from Hamilton saying that he should be. And I like a lot about the Reds team at the moment. I think Ryan Smith is a fantastic lock. I think he's probably one of the best performing locks in Australia. Not the flashiest, doesn't make the most hard yards, but he does everything well. He does everything in attack and defence well. He runs the line out well, and he does, as Nutter would say, his meat and potatoes is spot on, and he does that really well. I also think that a huge benefit for the Reds is that Vunivalu's not playing. I think that I think Yowie mentioned at the stay that it takes one of the attacking options out of the Chiefs game, because there's not that, oh, he's there, let's check down his wing. So I think it'll be close. I think the Chiefs at home with their support will get it, but I don't think it's going to be by more than about 2 or 3 points either. I'm just a biased Kiwi, so I'll go with Chiefs like you guys go with the Aussie team, which is fair enough.
Yeah. Look, I'm obviously biased, happily to admit so. The styles make fights, and I think these two line up against each other really well. Last 4 games, they've each taken 2. None of them have been blowouts. They're all close games. They just seem to line up well against each other. And even going back quite a number of years, when Sonny Bill was with the Chiefs, they played out an absolute cracker one day at Suncorp, put on about 70 points, and it was just a tremendous game. This will be tight. I think it'll be 20 points each and be one small moment. Ben O'Keefe's the ref on that game, so I think it'll be a pretty good game of footy to watch. So he's hoping.
Yes. I saw that. Yeah, Ben O'Keefe. He's probably he and Gardner are the best refs in the comp to watch, right? So
100%.
Karl, do you reckon that you said before the Chiefs switched off? The Blues switched off. Do you reckon they switched off, or do you reckon that every team's got swings and roundabouts and momentum and stuff? And but also, is the Reds backline the smallest backline in the Super Rugby? Do you reckon?
Yeah, but I don't think that matters because of the way they play and the way they got their players positioned in that back line. Fluke is absolutely not the biggest centre in the world, but what I like about him over some of the other centres is that some of the other centres are probably better individual players with their runs, but what he does really well and what I like is the way he sets up his outside backs. Yep. He creates space for them. And to me, that's one of the most important roles of a centre, which is why I don't like bloody Rico Ioane at centre, because he doesn't know how to do that even now. So I think that they have got a small back row, but they know how to create space for those back 3, and they know how to give the space to them to go forward. So I think that's the size is less of an issue because they know how to do that.
Yep.
Right, next game along, gents. The first of the Saturday games, afternoon game, the Hurricanes v the Rebels. For the Hurricanes, Justin Sangster starts at lock in place of James Tucker. Peter Lackey comes in at open side, doing his weekly split with Duplessis Tarifi. For the Rebels, and they've got a stack of other changes, I believe, in the Canes. For the Rebels, you've got Isaac Khalil starts at loose head ahead of Matt Gibbon, and Rob Leota starts at number 8. Carter Gordon returns at fly half, which is big for the Rebels. And then Andrew Callaway starts at fullback for this game. Karl, give me your unbiased opinion.
I don't have an unbiased opinion, mate. A, I'm a Kiwi, and B, I'm a fucking Canes supporter. So there's nothing unbiased in this bit. Canes will win this. I think the Canes this year, for me, the biggest thing for me this year is that they have shown so many different ways to win, and they can adapt their game to what is happening and still come out on top. And I like that. The Rebels, the only thing in this game, knockout competition. You know, it's this or nothing. The Rebels, this could be their last game as the Rebels ever, and that's going to be something that they will play for. So I think that they're certainly they're going to come out with a hiss and a roar, and the Canes are going to be stuck defending a hell of a lot in that first sort of 20-30 minutes, which is, I think, why they've made some of the changes they've made. But I still think that at the end of the day, the Canes have just got too much strength right around the field, and I think they'll take this. And I think they'll probably take it by about 10 points. But I think that there's certainly the potential here for the Rebels to perhaps not cause an upset, but certainly cause some problems for the Canes to get that win.
Rolf, your views?
I'm going to go with the home team, gents. I'm going to go with the home team. I think that the Rebels, they've really struggled, right? Since they've lost the last 5, they've really struggled. They've got players back. Carter Gordon's great player. I like the Rebels backline, although, to be honest, I don't know much about the inside centre, but Lancaster, Anderson, Callaway, Down-Gunu, super. They've been great all season. But I just don't see it. I don't see the Rebels turning around 5 losses and going over and knocking off the Canes in Wellington. So I love the underdog. I love the upset, but I just don't see it. I think the Canes have just been great all year. So I'm going with the Canes by. I'm not as optimistic for the Rebels as KARL is. I think the Canes by 15 to 20.
Yeah.
I think they'll just go away with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, shout out to Kevin Ford. I think he's done the coaching. He's been the coach of the year to manage to keep the team together and get them to where they are. I think there's the bridge too far for him. I think they'll get done by 20. I just think if they go behind, I just don't know that they'll have the fortitude to want to keep playing. But they've got a puncher's chance.
Sure.
It's the Canes by 20. Next game along, we've got the Blues v the Drua at Eden Park. For the Blues, Josh Behir replaces Sam Darry, who sits out under concussion protocols. One of KARL's favourite, Rico Ioane, returns to outside centre with AJ Lamb at 12. Harry Plummer is the fly half with Stephen Petafeta moving to fullback. The Drua have named the same starting 15 for last week when they played the Rebels. Rolf, what do you think?
I reckon it could be a cricket score. The Drua, as good as they are at home in the afternoon playing in Fiji. I've never been to Fiji actually, but as good as they are playing in Fiji in the afternoon in front of a home crowd, just turn to custard when they go away. So I don't know how many wins they've actually managed to rack up on the road, but they just seem to not cope. I think that, and I've got a feeling that the Blues will just bash them and bash them and bash them. This Blues forward pack, with the way they play and how aggressive they are and how hard they hit in attack and defence, I think that all that emotion, the Drew are going to have to sum it up with the discipline. I think once they start getting bashed, I reckon they're at risk of the discipline going out the window and in front of an away crowd. And I reckon this will be the blowout of the round. This will be 40 to 15 or something, or 40 to 10 or something. I think something like that.
KARL, thoughts?
Yeah, I can't argue with that, to be honest. I think that the Blues are just so extremely strong, and it's not just that they've got the strength in the forwards too. It's the way they've sort of set their play up, that in a game, the Blues tend to set the game. They set the way the game is played because of the way their forwards act together. Every forward knows what every other forward is doing all the time. They know how to play together, and it's really hard to change the game away from that. So I think that they'll do it. I agree. I think that the Drua, what I would love to see would be the Drua to throw all their normal rugby out of the way. The 15 game that they've learnt over the last 3 years that sort of helps them a bit. I'd love to see them throw it away and go back to the Fiji of 10 years ago, where every time they get the ball, they do cut-out passes, they throw, they chop it up, they dop it. I'd just love to see that. I don't think it'll help them win, but by hell, it'd be a good game.
Yeah, it's meant to be wet in Eden Park as well, so that just makes it a turgid affair, which just will mean the Blues should just have a bit too much.
And it'll be a cold wet too, not a warm wet. So
yeah, correct.
When it's pissing down in Fiji, you're still warm. In Auckland, pissing down with rain, it'll be freezing cold. You'll have guys on the back line getting hypothermia because it's so bloody cold out there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting with that.
Yeah. I'm don't hold out a lot of hope for the Drua. They've been 30 points better at home. This could be anything. But again, they've still got that puncher's chance. But I just don't see it myself.
Hey, how good's Caleb Clark been, by the way? Gee, he's good, isn't he?
He stepped up this year because at the start of the year he was having a few struggles, but he seems to have got his mojo back, doesn't he?
He looks like he's lean. He's a massive human, but he looks lean compared to a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and he just looks like he really wants to be there. And geez, good.
It's interesting. Talia's almost gone the other way. He looks as though he's bulked up and it slowed him down. But Clark is playing very well. It's certainly going to be interesting how Razor sort of chooses the wings and everything coming up at the games against England. So anyway,
Well, there's really only one wing to choose because Sevu Reece is locked in for the other one side. You'd have to think.
You'd think so, but you've got
Talia, been tremendous in a team that hasn't performed.
That's true.
So
I don't know. A couple of the Canes wings have done pretty well too, leading through the season. So I think it's been interesting, and it's probably a little bit off track, but people have been talking about the demise of the All Blacks sort of every year from fucking the last 20 years as I remember it. But those players, they just keep coming through.
We'll see.
They
do.
do.
Pod for another time.
Yeah.
A pod for another time. Okay, let's get stuck into the last game of the round. The Brumbies v the Highlanders at Canberra, 7:35 on Saturday. Main game of the weekend, in my view. Brumbies, Harry Vella replaces the injured Blake Shop at loosehead. Charlie KARL returns from injury at number 8. Jerome Brown is at open side. Tom Hooper's in the second row with Nick Frost on the bench. For the Highlanders, Mitch DeShea starts at lock. Oliver Craig starts at blindside flanker. Sean Withy starts at open side with Billy Harmon moving to number 8. In the back line, Falafa Katava, Cameron Miller, Tania Tilly, Tomavawe and Neepkins are all returning. KARL, what do you think about this game?
It's an interesting game. This one, my heart obviously goes for the Highlanders, but I think when I look at it from a head point of view, the Brumbies at home, with the way the season has gone, I think they should take this. I think they're going to be too strong. One thing I like about the Brumbies this year is that they keep managing to win ugly games. And for me, if you've got a team that can win ugly games, that means that you've got a team that is not going to be overrun, it's not going to be overawed, and is going to find something. So I really like that. It'll be interesting to see how the scrum goes for the Brumbies. It's been a huge disappointment this year. They really seem to have dropped the plot with the scrum. Tom Hooper moving into the second row with Nick Frost on the bench, I think, is a weakness. I like Charlie KARL coming back, and if he really has recovered from his injury, he's been a fantastic player this year, and for me, I think has almost been the standout number 8. I think the Highlanders are at least another year away from a good team. They've developed over this year. Absolutely, they've got better as the year goes on. But I think that they still haven't found themselves, and I don't think they're going to find themselves in this game. So I think the Brumbies will win this, and I think the Brumbies will win this by probably 13.
Fred, what do you think, mate?
Oh, Sorry, the Brumbies backline's pretty settled, isn't it? The very settled backline, and I like the fact the players that they can bring off the bench in the backline. It's interesting when we talk about the Wallabies, Wallabies teams and all that, and the players that stand out for the Wallabies. But there's a couple there like Andy Muirhead, Ollie Sapsford. No one talks about those guys playing Wallabies, and yet they don't seem to do much wrong. They don't miss tackles. They don't throw the ball away. And yeah, so and Ollie Saps is on the bench this week. Debrasini's on the bench, and they get to come on. But the Brumbies backline super settled. The Brumbies forward pack, it's all the same names we're used to seeing. They don't seem to deliver this year, but I think. There's so many syllables in the Hurricanes in the Highlanders backline, but they are. I think the Highlanders maybe a little bit of the 9-10 thing. I think they've, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've swapped out their 9 and 10 a few times during the year. They've had quite a lot of change there. So, and just the guys, and it's been really impressive, the Kiwi sides in general, how much the 9s and 10s have stepped up this year in the absence of the guys who left. But I think the Highlanders probably lack a bit there, the direction. Their forward pack, they could like the front row, they could give the Brumbies real work over in the scrum, and I think they will. But I think the Brumbies at home will be. I'm going with 6 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, hats off to the Brumbies. I thought earlier in the year, I didn't think they were that good, and I didn't think they would go as well as they have. They're on the same number of wins as both the Blues and the Canes for the year. So in that respect, they're only in third place due to bonus points. And I think they got spanked once, I think, by the Chiefs, really. But apart from that, they've been pretty good. I think they'll win. I think they'll win well. They should see off the Highlanders. They beat the Highlanders in Dunedin earlier in the year, quite convincingly in the end. And I think styles make fights, and I think the Brumbies will just have too much for the Highlanders. So that's where I'm at. Right.
It's a bit rough, isn't it, when we all agree?
I know. We want some competitive tension,
We like some competitive tension, but yeah.
But truthfully, there's probably only one. In my view, there's probably only one game where you think it's a coin toss.
Yeah.
The other three, I think everyone the non-favourite has a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
But probably the one with the biggest puncher's chance would be the Highlanders. I really can't see the Reds or the Drua getting anywhere, to be honest. The Rebels or the Drua getting anywhere, to be honest.
So don't you think the Reds,
mate? That's just a scar tissue of my previous disappointments.
Yeah.
So you should understand that, being a Cane supporter.
Chiefs are 4 and Queensland Reds are 5. So you would think that if the Reds won, it's them jumping up above the one above them. So. I don't think they will, but certainly believe they can, and they've proven that they can. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, but to be honest, if you'd have said to me, I know technically you'd say this is where, if the Reds did lose this week, if you'd said to me at the start of the year, you're going to finish in 5th and maybe get knocked out in the first quarter, you'd probably have taken, and you're going to beat the Crusaders in Dunedin, in Christchurch. You're going to lose in Golden Point to the Canes, and you're going to lose in the last play to the Blues, who finished 1 and 2. You know what? I'd have taken that. They've been pretty good all year. I think they're a developing team, and next year when they know what they set their minimum standard, because their minimum standard's too low at the moment. When their minimum standard gets up to a 7, I think they'll be a very, very good team.
I agree with some of the people who have been talking on the pods, on the blogs that we put in, and one of the problems the Reds have got at the moment is that they tend to match the team they're playing. For some reason, that's probably their biggest weakness at the moment, is that they need to establish their game regardless of what the opposition is doing. And I'm not sure why they do it. I still think there's a few selection issues there that need to be sorted out. but I think they're starting to head down the right path with some of those. So that's really good. If you look at the last 3 years, Pataya, where's he been? Has he been a wing? Is he a fullback? Is he a centre? Is he whatever? The same with Campbell. Is he a wing? Is he a fullback? Where's he going? Who's going to be the centre? Who's inside? Who's outside? They've never really settled, and I think that's been their biggest problem over the last 2 or 3 years. Is the players don't know what the hell they're doing because they don't know where the hell they're playing week from week. And I think one of the biggest things that Les Kiss has done this year is he's actually created a settled team. I think that they'll probably get more out of that next year than what they got out of it this year. But after the way things have gone, second Australian team, number 5, a good chance of moving into the semi-finals. You can't complain if you're a Red supporter this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's true. How many games did we lose? We lost too many games, right? We lost 6 games, but we lost to, like you said, the Hurricanes in Golden Point. We lost to the Blues after 80. We lost to the Brumbies 20-19, wasn't it? Happyman.
Yep.
We beat the Chiefs. We got. We dropped games against the
Moana and the Force, and that's the fundamental difference.
They're
That
the
goes
two
to
that kills you. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what Carl's point. They
that's
win
right.
those games which they should have. They finish in third or fourth,
that's right.
and then go to home final.
Yeah, that's right. And you win one of those close games, and it's a different story. But that's the developing team thing. I do like what Brad Thorne instilled in them, though. That because people say you're a young team, and so no. Look, I'm sick of you saying that. We're a team of men who need to play football. So, but they've been good. They look like a proper rugby team when they play this year. And there's some players. And this week, there's like every team, they've got some players on the injured list that you would think would be in the mix if they were there. So, and guys who were playing well this year, like what's his name, the centre, who did his knee.
Isaac Henry.
Yeah, he was great, wasn't he?
Henry for me was like almost the centre of the competition in those first few games. He played exceptionally, nothing fancy.
Nope.
Everything he did really well.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually really rate him, to be honest.
Yeah, look, he's been a big body that's been running around for a while, and if his list of injuries are just awful, like the amount of time that young man's lost to injury is just extraordinary, and he's got all the physical tools and all the rugby tools to be a very, very, very good player.
Yeah, so hopefully someone knows him, passed on our best wishes, because he's a tremendous and hopefully goes well and recovers for next year. So, but anyway, the Reds are in with a fighting chance. I think is what we all agree. The other teams are all going to struggle away. So,
yeah. Anyway, last segment for the night. Pardon me. Last segment for the night. Old man shouting at clouds. Carl, have a swing.
Yeah, interesting with I think my shouting at clouds is what the hell is going on with the strength and conditioning in Australia. There are so many injuries, and I think something's wrong in that whole strength and conditioning setup, because they're not becoming stronger. They're certainly not conditioned because they keep getting friggin' injured. And I don't know. I'm not blaming just the strength and conditioning. I think, the fact that we're bringing people through who we actually take them out of rugby games to put them in the gym and become really good athletes, I think is actually killing their rugby, because they need to play rugby. I remember years and years ago, I was going on a course in the army which required a lot of physical work, and one of the things that I was told is I should probably stop playing rugby in case I got injured. And I said, well, no, actually, I need to play rugby because my body actually has to be comfortable with taking knocks and keeping going. And I think for me, that's one of the things that's going wrong at the moment, where we're taking these people out of the game to try and make them good athletes, and then they go in a game and their body doesn't know how to handle knocks and doesn't know how to get hurt and keep going. And I think that's one of our real problems. But there's something wrong in the strength and conditioning. There are far too many injuries and critical injuries for that not to be an issue. And I think somewhere in the line, someone has gone in with a theory based on some sort of study of something that doesn't understand rugby, has missed the point, and is actually making our players worse.
What do you think, Rex?
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember back in the 90s hearing about the NFL, and there was a guy, Aussie guy, Colin Scott, massive dude playing in the NFL, and he was sort of trailblazing in the NFL. And he talked about the amount of injuries that NFL players cop in training because of the way they train, such big loads in training. Almost all the NFL players get injured in training rather than in playing because there's such a focus on strength and the snapping of the on. And I wonder if the Waratahs in particular have overdone something like that this year. And I'm not a physio or a exercise physiologist or anything, but yeah, picking up what Karl's putting down, I think something Waratahs in particular, so many off the ball injuries, so many big injuries, so 14,000 props or something, to use a bit of hyperbole like Phil Kearns, but so many front rowers, and you go, wow, it's just bonkers. So that I think maybe just a bit of hope. Like, I really, really, really hope that RA can do something. Someone, Rugby Australia, someone in a position of leadership can show some this year. They're going back to, we apparently going back to 4 teams, but we haven't seen a blueprint for what that looks like for next year. Where are the players going? Who's going to play? Who's going to not play? What's Super Rugby look like next year? Do we get more games or less games? Gee, I wish we had more games because our players need more games because they practice too much, don't play enough. Dan Herbert talked about that when he came into the role he's got. He said, we just want to, I think our guys need to play more rugby. So that's my thing. Hopefully there's a path forward with Super Rugby next year that, because while we all talk about it's not financially viable, Super Rugby next year, it is the pathway to the international level. And hopefully they can play more games, they can get more development out of it, and we can see an improvement in the standard that they get by playing more often. That's so an optimistic view of it, maybe, Happyman, but that's my take.
Okay. What annoyed you, mate? What have got on your goat?
Oh no, not much this week. I didn't watch enough. Maybe I didn't watch it. Oh, look, it annoyed the piss out of me the way Queensland stopped playing after that try got disallowed. But no, not much this week. No, I'm good. That's shouting at clouds. No, I'm taking a positive view for shouting to RA, saying do more, be better, get more games in.
Yeah.
Easy to shout at RA, but they're a bit of a soft target. But to be honest, they do a lot of things very well. What they don't do well, they're world class at. They don't get themselves involved in the community game. For one.
No, what do they do well? Tell me what they do well.
They do well. It's women's sevens program, the men's sevens program, all the junior stuff that they do, all the under 20s, men's and women's in the under 20s, the women's comp, they've done very well with that. So there's 5, and I haven't really tried.
Yeah, feels a bit like Monty Python. What did the Romans ever do for us? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, look, it's easy to be negative, and look, what they don't do well, they're very, very good at not doing it well. So let's look. The thing that annoyed me this week was actually not rugby related, but kind of is sport related. It's the fact that it looks like the NRL's getting $600 million over 10 years to put a team in Papua New Guinea as part of a soft diplomacy thing. Look, all about, I understand we've got to do diplomacy overseas and all that sort of stuff, but the NRL is a privately owned organisation, and they're basically throwing $500 million at them. If you wanted to actually make a difference in our country with that sort of money, the biggest thing in any junior sport is the amount of fees, the fees that you pay to play, and more than half of the fees that you pay to play are the insurance costs. So for less than $60 million a year, you could actually subsidise every junior kid in Australia to play sport without having to pay insurance to cover injuries that occur. It's one of the things that does my head in. It's so short-sighted in terms of all the good things that junior sport in particular does for the community, in terms of kids I always used to say kids aren't spray painting buildings when they're tired from playing sport. So,
True. True.
But that's just me.
Hey, do you think? I know we're going to run out of time soon, but and you sort of look at the social impact of that, and you look at there is a positive social impact of having a professional team presence in PNG, right? But by the same token, instead of spending 600 million, so much money on a professional team, like you said, do you get a social outcome with a tenth of that in Australia with kids playing more sport? And do you get a much better return if you develop junior programs in PNG, or you go spend the money on things that no one's ever going to see around? Well, let's go spend some of that money putting coaches and putting teams and building teams that the community can go and play football rather than go watch football. Do you reinforce a class and a has and has not structure that may or may not be there? So I'm just shooting from the hip here a bit, but I'm just
look, in terms
so
of
much money.
in terms of the offshore stuff, I'd defer to KARL on that because he's obviously been to Southeast Asia through his work. But from my perspective, I just think that we should be putting that sort of money should be going into junior sport, in improving our participation rates across every sport, not just the sport we love, but all the sports. Because I know, for example, to play junior rugby in Brisbane is the better part of $400 or $500 these days, and half of that is the insurance premium.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I agree with you on the insurance. I remember when it first came in, and I was refereeing at the time, and club numbers dropped by about 30%, 40%, purely because the fees went up. When the insurance, when RAC were no longer paying insurance, so it was an issue. I wouldn't look too much at the PNG thing with the rugby league because that's got nothing to do with sport. It's got everything to do with foreign policy and having influence against China. It's got absolutely nothing to do with sport. That was just an avenue to provide that foreign policy and to try and beat some of the Chinese influence. So while I can understand the frustration, I think that we need to understand also what's behind it, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with league. And anyone who thinks it is to do with league is running around with a tinfoil hat on and their head up their ass.
Yes.
All right.
I do like the tinfoil hat.
That sort of killed it off. Sorry, guys.
That
killed that one off a little bit.
No. Look, as I said, I don't have a problem with the soft diplomacy component of it. I just annoys the daylights out of me that that money's going basically to a private entity. Same as
well, this is the thing. Do you really believe that? That money is going to flow its way into so many areas of PNG that have got nothing to do with rugby league.
Most of them are politicians.
There'll be a fair bit of that as well, absolutely. But it's got very little to do with the actual league, and looking at it from a private entity point of view is actually missing the point of what's going on, I think, mate. Sorry, but that's just me.
Happy to be wrong.
No, fair point.
It happens a lot.
Yeah,
it happens a lot. But it still annoys me. That'll about see us out tonight, gents. On that happy and positive note. Once again, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Download, rate, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. And we'll talk to you all next time. Bye for now.
Cheers, team. Have a good one.
Guys. See ya.
No problem.
If you don't know anything about rugby, don't talk.
Regan. Drop goal from Larkham.
Australian 3-4, they've got the advantage.
Worst press conference. Well done, boys.